32 and I'm happily married with 2 children. My husband is from Bali, where I first met him at the executive lounge at Denpasar Airport. It turned out that we have a lot in common. Both of us love the concept of work anywhere and anytime. Our office is our laptops. After years of traveling around the world, and at the same time making money, we decided to have a place to settle down. After all, we already have 2 little kids. It's a handful to constantly travel with them, and constant traveling hinders them from making real good friends. We decided to settle in my home country, which is an EU member, and that would give us a lot more space to move around freely. We decided to buy a house in a small town. The town is nice, just perfect for us. And the house, well, we actually had several houses to choose from the market. But somehow we decided to buy a house that wasn't our first choice. We had the money to buy our favorite house, but I somehow insisted that we buy this particular house. I couldn't explain to my husband why I was so adamant in choosing this house. But after my husband failed to convince me, he decided to go along with me. Physically, there's nothing wrong with the house. It looks fine. It doesn't look spooky, it's bright and airy. But every time I go inside that house, I feel mysteriously comfortable. I say mysteriously comfortable because I feel like I've lived in this house before. I feel like I grew up in this house. But I don't remember anything at all about this house. Could it be it's because of my past? I was an orphan taken care of by my aunt. My aunt and her family took me in when I was 4 years old, and they're great family. I have nothing but good and pleasant words to describe them. When I was young, my aunt told me that my parents died of an accident. When I was late teen, she told me the truth. Everything she knows. My mom killed my dad. Police investigation couldn't find the motive for the murder. As for Mom herself, there was a suicide note. Nothing much inside the note. It was just a single sentence clearly indicating that she committed suicide after killing my dad. I was attending kindergarten class when the murder happened. Another mysterious thing is, my mom's body was never found. How and where she committed suicide, nobody knows, and the case was closed. My aunt lives in a different town from my mom, and she never told me the town and the address where my mom, dad, and I used to live. My aunt told me not to seek my past because she wants me to have a bright, happy future. I agree. My husband decided to rent a small office space not far from our house since he needed to hire a few staff to help his business grow, and I would continue my online business from home. We were very happy and upbeat living our new house, but that slowly changed for me. Almost every night, I had a dream. Always the same dream. A pair of white eyes looking closely at me. I tried to brush it off. But each week, the dream began to reveal part of the face. It was a woman. And her face was like made from square patches of skins coarsely stitched together. The dream only revealed that particular part of her face, so I absolutely have no idea what she looks like. I never told my husband. Until our 5-year-old daughter, Julie, screamed and cried in her bedroom in the middle of the night. She was hysterically scared, and she said she saw a pair of white eyes staring at her. I was shocked. That night my husband thought it was just an ordinary bad dream. In the morning I decided to tell him about the dreams I had for several nights, and still going on. My husband, being a Balinese, was all ears. Bali Island, known for its beauty and culture, is often associated with mysticism, and the Balinese believe in the balance between good and evil. However, to some extent, my husband is also embracing Western values, such as science and common sense. So despite giving me all ears, he told me not to rush to any conclusions, especially those based on imagination. For the next few nights, Julie doesn't have that dream, which is relieving for me. As for myself, I still have that dream. I just can't get used to those pair of white eyes. It still sends chills down my spine even thinking of it on daytime. Then one night, it was our 4-year-old daughter, Jill, screaming and crying in the middle of the night. It was that same dream. The exact same dream. But again, to my relief, it was a one-time dream for both of my daughters, while I'm still having it. The only one who never had that dream was my husband. He did say that his Balinese Hindu priest offered him a spiritual protection before he went traveling the world with me. He accepted the offer not because he believed in it, but merely as a cultural thing, and a good gesture to his longtime Hindu priest. I don't want to sound superstitious, but when we were traveling around the world, as tourists, we sometimes met aggressive, unpleasant people who just want to confront us. But when they see my husband, they suddenly became tame and easy to talk to. It's been few days since Jill had that creepy dream, when my husband told me that he had been investigating the situation. It turned out that the house was actually an old house that had recently been renovated to look contemporary. The foundation and layout was never changed. The previous owner lived there for 8 years without complaint before they had moved to another EU country for the new job. No wonder when we first take a look at this house, accompanied by our real estate agent, the house looked modern inside and out, but the layout was a bit strange. And even more strange was, I was the one adamant on getting this house even though it wasn't our favorite choice. A week has passed, and my daughters seemed to forget about their scary white eyes dream. My husband was not affected. He never got the dream, while I was constantly keep having that dream about that woman almost every night. One night, we were having dinner at home when suddenly we smelled something. The smell was quite faint, but strong enough for everyone to smell it. We didn't know what smell it was, but it was not pleasant. We opened the windows, and the smell gradually disappeared. The next dinner, it happened again. We opened the windows, and the smell went away. I looked at my husband, but he acted like it's not a big deal. The next dinner, the odor was stronger. It was disgusting. And what surprised us was the odor was confined only around the dining table. The living room, kitchen, even the toilet weren't smelly. Clearly, this was not a plumbing issue. At that same night, that creepy woman appeared again in my dream. This time, the dream came with sound, or voice. I just didn't know what it was, but it added to the already creepy situation. The next 2 nights, as usual during dinner, the odor was getting stronger and stronger. It was when my husband whispered something to me that made my jaw dropped. He said it smelled like a dead body. He knew that smell because he has encountered dead bodies when parts of his country, Indonesia, was hit by the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. Close to 230,000 people from at least 4 countries died from that massive tsunami. Dead bodies scattered all over the affected areas and lying around to decay for days because authorities had difficulties collecting them. But how can there be a dead body inside our house? My husband investigated, and he found out that the odor came from under the dining table. He touched the floor under the dining table with his fingers and put his fingers close to his nose. Then he said that the floor smells exactly like the odor. It even smelled stronger than what we smelled in the air. I told my husband that my dream had intensified with sounds and voices in the past 2 nights. He looked at me seriously. The next day, he called in a carpenter to remove the floor. Underneath the dining table floor, there was concrete. The carpenter was baffled and said there's nothing that indicates the concrete has anything to do with the house. My husband told him to demolish the concrete. But the carpenter didn't bring the necessary tools to handle the concrete. He also said that the concrete was quite thick, so he might bring along a friend to help him. While the carpenter was away to take the necessary tools, we looked at the floor hole and the concrete beneath it. The concrete was around 1.5 by 2 meters. What could be inside the concrete? Is it a dead body? But there was no smell. Not like during dinner, there was no smell of dead body. Just the smell of the damp removed wooden floor and the damp ground. Half an hour later, the carpenter returned. Bringing along his friend, they immediately work on demolishing the concrete. A big chunk of concrete was lifted and, oh! That smell! That odor! It just gushed out from the concrete. The room was quickly filled with the smell of a dead body. It was very, very strong odor. Everyone, including my husband, rushed outside the house, covering our noses. Outside, I and a carpenter vomited. We could only smell, but we didn't see what's inside the concrete. The carpenter who lifted the concrete chunk didn't see anything either. He was taken back by the strong gush of rotting air from inside the concrete. The police arrived minutes after we called them. They entered the house, and even just one step inside the house I could see them covering their nose. The police got out and agreed that the odor was a dead body, but they couldn't see what's inside the concrete even with their flashlights on. Within hours more police arrived. A small demolition team and coroner went into our house. Police began asking us questions. With several police cars and vans parked in front of our house, neighbors began stepping out from their houses or took a peek through the windows. 10 minutes later, the demolition guys came out and confirmed a dead body was inside the concrete. The demolition guys didn't have more information because now it's the coroner's turn to investigate. 15 minutes later, one of the coroners came out. He had a chat with the police officer who earlier had asked us questions, and then they both approached us. The coroner told us that the concrete was a grave. Inside was a dead body, a female in her mid-20s, and a few items with a telltale sign that she might be a cult member or devil worshipper. I looked at my husband in disbelief. The coroner then continued that she was wearing a scarf with 2 large letters, I and B. I, B. I looked at my husband again, and said that my mother's name was Isabel Bertrand. Apparently, the police officer was familiar with the case and so he explained it to the coroner. The coroner then said that if someone's been dead for 28 years then what's left are just skeletons. But this body looks like it's been dead for only a few days. The level of decay and the staunch smell indicated that. I asked the coroner if he took a picture of the body. The coroner suggested that I shouldn't look at the photo before the body is transferred to the morgue to be cleaned. But I insisted. The coroner looked at the police officer who, in turn, gave no response. So, the coroner took out his mobile phone and showed me the photo. Oh my God! It was my mom. With her white eyes opened, and stitched patches of skin on her face just like in my dream. Oh my God! I fell into my husband's arms in total shock. The coroner said that the condition of the body will be subject to extensive investigation. After days of investigation, the police report revealed that the woman committed suicide, and someone had buried her body. No leads as to who buried her. Items found in the woman's grave were linked to devil-worshipping activities, but there was no known cult in the town during that time. The skin patches, stitched all over her body, was of animal skin, and there was no other skin on her. Not even her own skin. The time of her death was around 4 days since she was found, and that her age was 24 to 26 years old. Her DNA and my DNA matched 99.8%. The police confirmed that she was Isabel Bertrand, my mother. Her death is still a mystery. After she was removed from our house, the odor never appeared again. But she's still coming inside my dream at night. My husband said that this seems to affect our family and not others. So we decided to sell the house and move to another town.
Hi, welcome to our YouTube channel, Souls Around You, and thank you for listening to our horror stories. We have more stories in our channel, so if you like it, please subscribe and press the like button. Your subscription and likes are very rewarding for us.